1.5 years of experience, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you give a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah. Total 9.8 years of experience in .NET technology. Coming to the technology wise, I do have experience on ASP.NET, ASP.NET MVC, and ASP.NET Core. I do have exposure on SQL Server as MongoDB. Coming to that databases like NHibernate and Hibernate, which were communicating with our .NET to the databases. I do have exposure on AWS as well as Azure. We have implemented like a few of the concepts in my organization, and I do have exposure on microservices using the Dockers and Kubernetes. Coming to that HTML side, just front end side, I have an exposure on Angular 6.4. And this is what the brief from the technology side. And I have done MCA from Acharya Nagarjuna University with 80%, and I am the class topper for all the semester in my college. And coming to the achievements, I do have best employee of the year twice in a comp again, best employee of the month. And I do have that client appreciation, the POCs which has been done from their problem statement, and to provide the solution to their problems. This is what high level morally.
Okay, good. Ramu, what are the POCs that you recently did? I mean, what kind of challenges did you overcome?
Yeah, challenges in the sense there is a we in our project logins, we are doing the logins, and the logins has been saved into that the directory C drive and D drive in the IIS server. Okay. We have like a couple of times, so the clients are saying that they are getting an unhandled exception kind of thing. We have to wait until that DevOps team has to come to online and give the logs and to identify what is the exactly the issue is. There might be some of the cases of null point exception based on the data set up by the customers. And this null pointer exception, we do have the logins in the iLogger to save the logs information into the C drive only. Earlier, that the project was implemented like that. Because of the business is using like a functionality, if something has to be blocker from their end, we have to fix that issues as early as possible. If you want to get that loggers and the DevOps team has to come to online, they have to give the loggers. It is taking around 1 hour or 30 minutes time to get the loggers from the server, need to connect the servers and get the log information. If it is a GB, we have to zip it and we have to unzip it. To avoid this kind of problem statement, we have implemented into that Azure table storage to log the information. Instead of waiting for the DevOps team to come to online to give the solution, like to give the file and to check that what is the log is happening since 1 hour or 30 minutes. We do have implemented this one of the to save the log information into the Azure database. That is one of the POCs we have done. And we have showcased the client, and client is approved, and we have implemented the same thing. Coming to another achievement in terms of we have a monolith application, like all the modules are implemented in a single, and we have to host that entire application in a once. If something is goes down, we have to be stopped that entire application, we have to do the fix, and we have to provide the solution. We have to build that entire project again and again. In terms of a monolith application, we have some drawbacks, right? Yeah, for this kind of thing, in the last 1 year, we have implemented one POCs for microservices, and we have showcased the client, and the client is approved the approach what we done, and we are trying to converting of all the different modules. We have completed 2 modules till now, and we in terms of challenges we have faced in terms of the networking, the Azure networking. We do have that local network, Azure connectivity between the 2 services. We have discussed with that infra team to get that information, where is the problem, or like if you want to communicate within the one microservice to other microservice, there is some virtual network and subnets. We do have some issues while we host that multiple services. We have communicated with them, and based on the logins, whether the request is going to that particular service or not. Like we do have the different health checks to check is the communication is happened or not, and we have fixed those issues.
Okay, what are the design patterns that you implemented?
CQRS design pattern, factory design pattern, dependency injection, and singleton design pattern. We have implemented in like since 4 years.
Okay. What are the other challenges that you faced?
Yeah, in challenges in terms of the application performance wise, like we do have that ERP system. Basically the ERP system has to maintain the data at least 10 years. Like user want to, like I have a POs, and POs has been maintained since 10 years. I want to get all the POs which has not been invoiced. In terms of like we do have the multiple clients and multiple region. It's a multi-tenant application. We want to head to save the data into the single database. If the data is growing day by day, it is very difficult to get the data from the database. Like in terms of like lakhs of records to fetch the data from the database to application layer, it is taking like 20 minutes of the time to perform the data from the database to application layer. These are the one of the challenges we faced. For the challenges, we do have one solution to provide the clients to convert that entire thing to the job and to save the information into that particular Azure storage folder. We will give the UI to download the file from the Azure storage. Like that, this is one of the performance application. In terms of the database wise, we do have implemented like primary and secondary replica databases instead of all the operation. We need a data from the last 5 years, right? It's not a current active data. In this case, we do have a redirect those types of requests to the secondary database, which is only the read-only replica. It will get the data from the secondary database instead of waiting someone is trying to operation on the primary database on the same table or different tables which are performing on the get operation.
Okay. So Ramu, some of the questions on microservices that you explained.
Mm-hmm.
On what factors are you making the microservice? What are the factors? If it's a monolithic application, what are the factors you consider to make it a microservice?
Yeah, it's a kind of everything in terms of the requirements, and is one of the requirement like that we need to gather the requirements in terms of epics. We need to define the modules first. What are the we need to define the modules, and the modules in terms of the common functionality which has to perform. It's an independent. Like I do have that POs, I do have that inventory, I do have that invoice generation. We do have that maintaining the sending the notification to the users. This kind of thing. We do have to define the modularized. The module is having the single responsibility in terms of PO domain. It has to perform the PO creation, PO validation.
My question to you is, how are you achieving the intercommunication between the microservices? What do you use to communicate between the services?
Yeah, we do have used the RabbitMQ to communicate with the microservices. We can also use that Azure Service Bus based on our requirement. We can achieve it. We have implemented Azure Bus.
How is transaction handling done in a microservice?
By using Saga pattern, we have implemented the Saga pattern to distribute that transaction between the two microservices by using the correlation ID. We based on the correlation ID.
Can you explain me the Saga pattern?
Yeah. Saga pattern, which will I want to there is a I have a PO creation. The PO creation by default state is pending state. It has to check that PO. It has to available, the stock is available or not. It will go to the stock microservices. It will check whether we have the stock is available or not. In the stock, it will I will send that notification in terms of the message to that bus will read that information, whatever the purchase order ID, what is the quantity is requested from the bus. It will return in terms of the exchange to exchange in terms of purchase order received or purchase order response. We have the two services or two messages we have to two queues we have to configure at the subscriber side. Once we receive that message from the PO, we will check it and we will push that purchase order received response queue to put it whether it is a succeed or failure. Based on that ID, we will the publisher side we do have the subscriber. The subscriber will check what are the messages in the PO response queues. It will check and it will perform the operation based on that ID.
Okay. You mentioned about CQRS pattern.
Yes.
Can you explain CQRS?
Yeah, CQRS is a command and query responsibility segregation. Yeah, as discussed in our call, we have a primary and secondary database. I want to push all the commands like insert command, delete command, or update command. I want to push all the information to the primary database. I want to get select commands. I want to redirect this information to the secondary database because it is not a depend on to perform the DML operation. In this case, I do have the handlers like a request handler and in terms of a query handler and command handler, we do have defined those handlers. In this handler, we will call the repositories which is having the primary repository or secondary repository. We will perform the operation.
Okay. Okay. So Web API.
Okay.
What is the framework that you have been working? Latest framework, .NET Core.
Framework 3.4.
3.0 or 3.1?
3.1.
Okay. Can you explain me the concept of generics and creating a generic class of your own?
Okay. We have we have to follow some step to create our generic class, which has to extend that the type of T, and the type should be the class type.
Okay. Can you explain me the concept of delegates?
Yeah, basically delegates which will use to two ways, because one we want to call a function without creating an object, and we want to creation of an expression. We can use the delegates. Delegate is a basically it's a pointer to a function.
I believe you have used entity framework, right?
Correct. Yes.
In entity framework, how do you do a transaction?
By using a transaction class, like a connection data, create a transaction, commit transaction, and rollback transaction, we can use it.
Okay. How do you handle concurrency? What is the default concurrency in entity framework?
Default concurrency is read uncommitted.
Can you explain?
Yeah, it will read the data, whatever the data is available in a table until the commit is the transaction is committed or rollback. It will read the data, and we can perform the operation.
Okay. Have you heard the word store win approach?
No.
In terms of concurrency handling?
No.
What is the benefit of async and await on the runtime environment?
Yeah, I don't want to wait until the response has to come from the server or service. I want to perform some notification and I want to save some logging information. If you want to do the operation irrespective of whether data is coming or not, I want to do the some independent operation from the data which is coming from the particular task.
Can you explain me about iLogger?
Yeah, iLogger basically it's in a framework, a Log4j. It will perform to do the operation in terms of the levels. We can configure what are the levels we have to provide that logging information in an application. We can configure at a application JSON level, application settings.json level, or like we do have the different predefined method like log.information, debug, warn, and error. Based on the if you are using try catch block, if you want to handle that warn message, log.warn we can.
How are you handling multi-threaded exception?
Multi-threaded exception. Can I explain more?
Multi-threaded environment, or when you have used task parallel library, you have created multiple tasks and errors can happen.
Okay. By using try catch, we can handle it. By using cancellation source, we can also stop that. If we have any exception, we can also stop that current task. But I don't think so. Do we have any specific error handling for multi-threading?
Have you heard of inner exception?
Yes, yeah.
What does that do?
Inner exception, it will give the details of what is the exception is happening for a particular operation. Detail of like invalid exception, divided by zero exception. It will give that details of the particular exception.
What are the types of exceptions?
Handled exception and unhandled exception. We can divide it like compile time and runtime. Like it's a runtime only exceptions. Like we have a handled and unhandled. Handled exception, we have to handle that base class object is an exception. If there is like unhandled exception, it will it will redirect that it will stop that particular application execution.
How do you implement security in a web API project?
We can do that in the .NET Core, right? You are expecting. Yeah, we do have that JWT authentication. We can configure that middleware, authentication middleware and authorization middleware.
Have you used Azure Active Directory?
Yes, yeah.
Have you used B2C, KAT B2C?
I heard that one, but in present application we have an Azure Active Directory. By using every user has to be authenticated by the Active Directory, and once the user is authenticated, we'll have that users and roles and tasks has been the separate table, and we can perform the operation from there.
How do you handle exceptions in a web API project?
Exceptions in web API also is try catch only and global exception. We can also handle the globalized exception also.
How do you handle data validation in web API project?
Data web API project in MVC we have implemented by using the model validation, and in .NET Core we have the JSON validator. We will convert that object into the JSON and we can validate the JSON with the schema.
Is there any other ways that you have implemented? Haven't you tried Fluent validation?
Yeah, Fluent validation. Yeah, also is kind of a model validation only, right? Yes, we can. Yeah, like it's a kind of an attribute, and we can define that attribute. It will we can validate it.
What are the code analyzers that you have used?
SonarQube and SonarQube we have used the code analyzer, and this one another thing is code analysis. These are the two things we have used in our project.
What code analysis?
By default, the .NET provide the code analysis. We can define the rules for the naming convention for the table, naming convention for the variables and methods, and all the things.
Okay, let's say you are the technical lead of the team. Okay. What are the factors that you consider when you do a code review?
Yeah, we do have considered about reusability. We do have to consider about that impact if it is already the project is implemented, if you want to add a new functionality to the project, and we do have to check whether we are following on the some the patterns which will make the life is easy for the developer going forward. Solid principles, are we following the solid principles and naming conventions? Can we also do the refactoring of the code instead of the developers? Each developer will do their own coding based on their experience. Can we also refactoring the code to implement the new features, kind of thing? This we do need to check as well as a functionality as well, like the domain level. We need to verify that is that particular code maybe will work for the few of the cases and will not work for the few of the cases because of the domain we worked with 4 years, right? We do have to consider for all the cases to review the code for the peers.
What framework have you used for unit testing?
Mark and NUnit.
Azure, what are the resources that you have created?
By using Azure Functions, Azure Web App Services, Azure Service Bus, Azure Load Balancer, Azure Key Vaults, and Azure App Insights. Azure Storages also we have used in our project.
How do you connect to Azure Key Vault?
By using
development time.
We based on the connection string, we can connect to the Azure Key Vault to get that secret key and secrets from the whatever the secrets we stored, right? By using the SDK, will provide the classes to connect to the Azure Key Vault services to get the value.
So using App Insights. Supposing App Insights is not available in a specific region, how do you configure that? How do you configure App Insights and put your own exceptions in that?
I haven't tried that way, but we have configured. We have used that App Insight to check what are the incoming requests, what is the exception, and what are the applications which are connected by using the application map to check what is the since last hours do we have any exceptions, kind of thing. But customized exception I haven't implemented. I think we can define the rules. I think in the App Insight.
What kind of client frameworks have you worked on? JavaScript frameworks.
I have worked on Azure Angular 6.4, jQuery, and I have like a little bit experience on Knockout.js.
Can you explain me the concept of lazy loading?
Lazy loading in Entity Framework, right?
No, I'm asking in terms of Angular.
Lazy loading, I heard that one. but no idea.
How do you do state management in Angular?
By using a local storage, we can maintain the state management.
What are the types of local storages possible?
Local storage and session storage in the client side. We do have that guards. We have to implement the guards to check whether the
What is
user
that?
guards in the sense the custom guards to check that authentication and authorization in the local to send that token information to the clients.
Okay, fine. Ramu, let us do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a meeting now at 12:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You connect back. Can be a bit sit backside so that I can see you properly. All done. Okay, I have taken your snap.
Okay.
You do one thing. I have a meeting now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Till 2 o'clock. I'll give you some online test. Okay.
Okay.
Can you connect on the same link
Okay.
at 2 o'clock?
I was busy from 12 to 3:30, but because of 30 minutes I joined here. Maybe after 3:30 I do have the lunch again if the client calls. Maybe can I connect tomorrow and can complete it?
It's up to you. I mean, I'm done with the call. Okay.
Okay.
So you can get the prep call tomorrow.
Okay.
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 You speak to HR.
Okay.
They will communicate with you.
Sure. Thank you, Murli.
Okay.
Bye bye.